Look at how Iraq went. There, video done.
Hello Gunrunners, welcome back to AKAY Reacts. I'm AKAY, the voice of the schizo attack you're having right now. I'm making a shorter video just to piggyback off the last one. I was first looking for simulation for this hypothetical battle, but then found out the video talking about it already exists. Got to mention, first off, I did not know this channel existed, yet I have seen videos of him, Cody I think, breaking down Transformer movies. So before we start, make sure to subscribe not only his channel, but the other one talking about movies that is insanely good. The channel Pointless Hub for the movies, and Alternative History Hub for this video. All links will be down in the description. I really want to know what he has to say about this, but I made this point in my last video that the US military will lose because of all the third parties involved. Not that the government of Iran will win. Hell no. F them, hope they don't. I made the point that there is an entire branch dedicated to guerrilla warfare that will embed itself and hide everywhere it can to just try to extend the war as much as possible. Where I also talked about the massive amounts of industries that the IRGC, the guerrilla army itself, owns in Iran. Trying to tell the difference between them is gonna be a massive problem of its own. I'm saying that just because the government of Iran just fails and its military loses doesn't mean all of its military is just going to disappear, or that America's job is just done, let's clean up and go home. In the last segment of the video, I said everyone wants change in Iran. When you start asking who needs to be left in charge, you get very different answers. This is not a problem that can be solved with more military unit, personnel, aircraft, or nukes.
آخ جون دعوا میده آخ جون دارن همدیگه رو میکشن آقا من عاشق دعوا آقا به خدا رو حساب کن معلوم میاد من حساب کنم؟ بازه! چیکار کرده بوده؟
Anyway, this video is going to be much shorter. Let's get started with this one. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share. All the links are going to be down in the description, and I'm going to give you a link in the top right corner right about now. So let's get started.
Look at how Iraq went. There, video done.
If similarities are there. Why war with Iran is a
I'm just a guy
really bad
with a
idea.
channel, but that channel is about theorizing. Usually that's about past events, but this time I'm going to theorize about how a possible future event might go. An invasion of Iran.
Can you put that in the form of a question?
What if that thing I said?
Now it's not likely it will happen, ever.
More than likely.
Please don't jinx it. But if it does, or seems really likely because of America's current alliances with certain nations, this video is a handy last-second guide for, anyone in charge, why invading Iran is a really, really bad idea.
Iraq 2.0.
Originally, I was going to say that justification of war with Iran would need to be extremely credible, or at least kind of
Not
credible.
really.
But after furiously fixing this video due to recent events, I feel like, nah, any justification for war would not have to be that credible.
Yeah.
Or at least the response would be tenfold compared to whatever action Iran may or may not have taken to justify
If
said
they started
response.
it, yeah,
A
sure.
good analogy is if a child gives you an angry slap, and in response you toss him off a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Yes, the child probably learned his lesson falling to the pavement, but now you're in prison with your own problems.
Yeah.
So, small threat, massive response. This isn't like
Bigger
the post 9/11
problems
world
after.
where anything could be slapped on a label as tied to terrorism, and that'd be a legitimate cause. Bush's faulty evidence on Iraq's WMDs never would have gained traction without the broader context of the war on terror. Even then, it
Sure, but let's be honest, if war is going to break out with Iran, is most likely going to be some sort of weapons of mass destruction, I believe, or their nuclear program being questioned. You know, even if they had that, they could at most get away with like 1, maybe 3, at most 10 nuclear weapons that they could like actually use. But even then, what's the point? What are 10 nukes supposed to do against an enemy that has more than 5,000? Let's keep
It
going.
was still protested around the globe and not supported by nations who
God
were
bless those
in
people.
Afghanistan. After almost
War as hell.
2 decades of this, the public is now more cynical and jaded from the idea of another Middle Eastern conflict. According to Gallup polls, don't take these as gospel, but they help prove a point. An invasion of Iran is overwhelmingly disapproved by the public, 82% as of 2019. So the backlash to any involvement in Iran would be larger than any protest of Iraq, or even the ones of the last few years. It'd be an overwhelming, resounding
Yes?
Maybe.
No.
But you know, protests didn't work in Iraq. I doubt protests work for Iran. So off to war
Exactly.
we go. Yippee, what now? The United States
The
is
seaway,
uncontested on
yeah.
the seas. Many assume that this part of the invasion, just entering the strait and blocking in the Iranians, would be simple. What could Iran do? This is where I want to introduce you to Millennium Challenge 2002. In 2002, the US military conducted
don't know
a
about this
military
one.
exercise, the most expensive of its kind.
It's pretty
It was
old,
to see
but
how the US could successfully conduct a
just
war
1 second. Let me check the video's date. 2019. Let's keep going. 5 second back.
the most expensive of its kind. It was to see how the US could successfully conduct a war against an unrelated Middle Eastern nation, to see how well it would perform.
How
It was
unrelated?
Iran. It was a test for a war against Iran.
Of
There was
course.
the blue team, America, and the red team, Iran. For the red team, the chosen commander was retired Lieutenant General Paul Van Riper. At his disposal
Alright.
was only equipment that Iran would have: small speedboats, low-flying planes, short-range missiles, the whole shebang. So the exercise
Yeah.
began. Van Riper, knowing that the US Navy would immediately sail too close, began to attack first. He sent off his suicide bombing boats. They'd give coordinates to where the US ships were and relay it back to the missiles. Then the ships would run straight into the US cruisers, detonating. In the
Oh.
first phase of the exercise,
Mobile
19
IDs.
ships, including 3 aircraft carriers, were sunk.
Oh,
Estimates
God.
for the total US casualties this would have brought was 20,000. The
Oh,
largest
God.
navy in the world was decimated in combat by a technologically inferior enemy. Granted, all of this was because of a 40-year career veteran of the
Yeah,
Marines.
sure.
He said that he knew the
Of course, one more point. Even though they are very territorial in the Persian Gulf, I don't think they will be the ones to open fire. Just saying. Let's go.
US would be too reliant on their own technology and ideal of power that they'd underestimate his forces. The US hoped
David
the
and
Red Team
Goliath,
would have
yeah.
used satellite or radio to relay orders, yet instead he used motorcycle carriers. So what did the US do in response to this news? Simple. They just rigged it. The Red Team was not allowed to use suicide boats, nor would they be allowed to shoot down
Why not?
planes using radar. The exercise
it's just
was
a
meant to
nerf.
show the blue forces winning
Yeah.
overwhelmingly. The US learned nothing, is what I'm saying. So would a war with Iran lead to an immediate 20,000 dead? No.
Hope not.
I doubt Iran's generals would be as efficient as he was. However, they don't have to be as efficient. They just have to follow the same strategy, and it could produce similar results. Imagine the backlash and blow to morale if just
It
one
is a choke
aircraft
point.
carrier is sunk, or 1,000 Navy personnel die. Long story short, it isn't that easy of a fight, and we haven't even landed in Iran yet.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the initial invasion. Iran is not Afghanistan or Iraq. Afghanistan has a mountainous
It's
terrain,
worse.
but its central government at the time, the Taliban, was nothing more than just a militia force. Iraq, while it did have a sizable military, had only 40% of the million troops they once had a decade earlier.
Yeah.
Most of them were poorly trained. Not to mention the nation itself is flat desert connected by highways, allowing coalition troops to easily invade from north and south right into Baghdad. Both operations took around a month, resulted in minimum American casualties, and
Yeah.
took down the governments with ease. Iran would not be this. Iran has double the military Iraq did in 2003, and they were better trained, equipped, and commanded. The entire nation is a geographic fortress,
Oh god.
a plateau.
Just take a look at the topography of this. These are the Alborz Mountains. These are the Zagros Mountains. This is the Plains Desert or Caviar Desert. This is the Lut Desert. But yeah, you can see how going inside from the sea is going to be kind of easy if you do take the control of it, which they will. America definitely has the power there. This one, the actual troops that need to go up, this is going to be the problem. Let's keep going.
Any relatively flat area is either uninhabited or on the coast.
Yeah.
So actually invading the nation will require going through natural choke points. Highways would be the best options for troops landing in the Persian Gulf, going north into Iran. Even then, it isn't as simple as the last two wars in the initial stage.
Yeah.
It's not like Iran would win this fight. However, the opening invasion certainly would have higher casualties than the public expected from 2 decades ago. And that right there is also a blow to morale. But Tehran is, after a month or
Just do take notice that Tehran is the northernmost point of Iran. So America technically needs to own almost a straight line from the southernmost point to the northernmost point. America has to control all.
2 or 3 taken. And now the
Yeah, but
Americans
it will
are
be
left in
taken.
charge of a people who didn't wish they were there due to a war with an iffy cause.
Ugh.
Iran has major issues. It's a theocracy.
Yeah.
It forces women to wear head veils, promotes
Yeah.
radical extremism. Yeah, its government is horrible. But no matter how a people feel about a government, there is nothing more uniting to them than a foreign power invading their land. Which is why
If I could kiss you, I would. I believe I said that like word for word. How many different groups there are going to be and how many of them are going to resent an occupation by a foreign power. Yeah. Let's keep going.
I find the idea that any real human could think doing the same invasion/nation building tactic would work the 3rd time, but maybe it isn't supposed to work. Maybe it's just supposed to depose a
If it
rival for others
did
who
work,
can't
I
directly
would
do
have
it
been
themselves
up
no
for
matter
it.
the outcome, but that's just my guess. Iran right off the bat has a population larger than Afghanistan and Iraq combined. An
Yeah.
insurgency in Iran would be worse than any we faced before in the war on terror. It's less Iraq and more Vietnam. Now it could be easily
Yeah.
made worse if the US decided to disband the military like they did last time.
Of course, you need to remember, like, Iran has a couple of, like, metropolis type cities. Like, Tehran itself has a population of, I think, more than 10 million. How are you going to control a city of that size when there are, like, in middle of urban warfare? Because that's the capital. That's the place you need to control. That needs more than just air support. That needs more than just, it needs more than force. It needs hearts and minds, if you will.
Leading to an influx of military-grade equipment going into the hands of now unpaid men trained for combat.
Yeah.
Not to mention the demographic
Another
problem.
ISIL.
40% of Iran's population are not Persian.
Yeah.
So various people like Kurds, Azeris, Lurds, Arabs, or Balochs.
Of course, thank you for pointing that out. Let me go back just a few seconds. I should have used this picture. Take a look at this. This part, the northern part, is just... These are like our North and South Dakotas, if you will. We have a eastern and western Azerbaijan that share a border with the actual country of Azerbaijan. Kurds in this area have a unofficial country. These Arab groups were the ones that were proxy warred by Iraq, by the way. And of course, this entire region or this municipality itself is called Sistan-o-Baluchistan. The residents are called Baluch. That's also the name of their ethnic population. As you can see, they are mostly Sunni Muslims, which have close ties to Pakistan and Afghanistan because those two countries have a Baluch province in them as well. So as you can see, there are just multiple endpoints from like other countries that can just make this a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Of course, the question of what are you going to do and how are you going to replace the leader of a theocratic religion and system of government is going to be very hard to ask, by the way. How can you differentiate between all these groups and people, which to keep, which to go war against, how to stabilize this entire thing? It needs more than nukes. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it needs more. This doesn't get fixed with more force. It's a vacuum of power. Let's keep going.
Various people like Kurds, Azeris, Lurds, Arabs, or Balochs may or may not get along once that central government breaks down.
Yeah.
Oh, and the 8% who are Sunni, who certainly in no way would be influenced to break away from the Iranian state by any outside influences.
Of course they are going
has
to.
been a problem that Tehran has needed to deal with, well, since the idea of an Iranian nation-state has existed.
He did talk about the Saudi Arabia coming in, but I'm more worried about Russia and China because Iran is in a treaty with them too, the SCO, which has all the lovely names you would expect. China, Russia, Pakistan, India, and Iran. Which one of the clauses or reasons for cooperation is safety of the region? Imagine that. Yeah, let's keep going.
And while I don't know if these ethnic groups will break off or fight amongst each other, I do know that this is not a situation you want a foreign Western power to deal with. Now, getting past the rough invasion, the difficult terrain, the angered, fractured, large population, and an insurgency, the politics come in. If we went into Iran, this would be a conflict/situation that we'd see for the next 20 to 30 years. It would break the Iranian state and be tore up from the outside by neighboring powers who each want a chunk. The Saudis would now have an opportunity to export their own brand of Islam against the Shias, spreading Wahhabism by money or by blood into the nation. Russia could export arms
more
to keep the
fundamentalism
Americans busy against insurgents.
Of course
Any
they will.
Islamic extremist group is going to have a field day carving up territory, and America is going to have to save face and spend trillions of dollars on another endless war, all while the Iranian people are caught in the middle and the state is reduced from a pretty iffy theocracy into a war zone, creating an issue we'll see even after those who started this war are already in their grave. I don't think there will be a war. At least even with my cynical lens, I can't imagine we'd see an Iran invasion just like in Iraq or Afghanistan. Realistically, I could see more sanctions being done on Iran, their air and naval space restricted, their economy sinking even further. I wouldn't be surprised if already there isn't plans to spark some form of rebellion within Iran itself.
Oh,
Maybe
100%.
even cyber war. Who knows? The thing about interesting times is that they could always be more interesting. How many times it would take for governments to realize this type of strategy doesn't work is for our descendants to find out. This is Cody.
Hope they will now.
History Hub.
That was a good video. So yeah, guys, just make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. I did say most of this stuff in the last video, just maybe differently. That was a very good video. Make sure to like, sub, share, all that stuff to the original creator of this video. And if you liked it, maybe do the same for me. I'll surely appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. I talked a lot about how this war will be bad for the people or that how America will lose in the long run. If I want to just say something to you all, my American viewers, is just bide your time. You will most likely not be needed to do anything before all this blows over past. These countries have a leader, and if I know one thing that's stronger than nukes, is that time is the greatest equalizer. Their youthful appearance says they don't got much left. Oh, and you know, the majority of dictators in the Middle East didn't have a happy ending. So, stay tuned for more. Goodbye.